A man wrote about crucifixion in 1000 BC. There's just one problem. Crucifixion wouldn't be invented for another 400 years. No Persian had conceived it. No Roman had perfected it. No language on earth had words for it. But in Jerusalem, a man picked up a pen and wrote about hands being pierced, bones pushing through disintegrating flesh, soldiers throwing dice for a dying man's robe. He didn't know who he was writing about. Or he knew exactly. Psalm 22 is one of the oldest surviving poems in human history, written by King David, approximately 1000 BC. It begins with a line billions have heard. Few know where it comes from. My God, why have you forsaken me? These are the last words of Jesus on the cross. Matthew 27:46, Mark 15:34. A direct quotation from a poem written 1000 years earlier. But what follows is what nobody talks about. Verse 14. All my bones are out of joint. My heart has turned to wax within me. Verse 15. My strength is dried up. My tongue sticks to the roof of my mouth. Verse 16. They have pierced my hands and my feet. Verse 17. I can count all my bones. People stare and gloat over me. Verse 18. They divide my garments among them and cast lots for my clothing. You just read a description of crucifixion, written 1000 years before crucifixion existed. So either this is the greatest coincidence in literary history, or something else is happening. Here is what history records. No serious scholar disputes this. Crucifixion appears earliest in the 6th century BC, Persians first, then Carthaginians, then Romans, who turned it into a system. Public, humiliating, inescapable. The timeline. 10th century BC, David writes Psalm 22. 6th century BC, crucifixion appears for the first time. 88 BC, first crucifixion recorded on Israeli soil. 33 AD, Jesus is crucified at Golgotha. The gap between David and the first crucifixion in Israel, 900 years. David could not have seen one. No one in his world could have described the physiology, the way bones protrude when a body hangs with arms outstretched, the extreme thirst, the inability to breathe without pushing up through the nail wounds. But Psalm 22 describes all of it, which means one of three things, and none of them are comfortable. Skeptics have three explanations. Each sounds reasonable. Each falls apart. Explanation 1. Psalm 22 was written much later, during the Babylonian exile, when Jews had contact with Persian execution methods. Reasonable. Until 1947, when Bedouin shepherds found clay jars in the Judean desert. Inside, leather scrolls dated 150 to 125 BC, over 1,000 years older than our previous standard text. Among them, Psalm 22, nearly identical to what we have today. No sign that pierced was added later. No alternate reading. Explanation 1 hits a wall. Explanation 2. It's a mistranslation. The Hebrew word karu doesn't mean pierced. It means like a lion. This argument is real. Scholars debate it. But two problems destroy it. First, the Septuagint, the Greek translation produced in Alexandria around 250 BC by 70 Jewish scholars whose mother tongue was Hebrew, translates it as pierced. People 2,000 years closer to the source chose pierced. Second, even if you grant like a lion, you still can't explain verses 14, 15, 17, and 18. Nobody disputes the bones. Nobody disputes the casting of lots. Nobody explains why a personal lament contains those specific, grotesque, procedural details. Explanation 2. Insufficient. Explanation 3. The most dangerous. The Gospel writers invented the details to match the prophecy. They read Psalm 22, then wrote a story that fit it. This would collapse everything. But consider one detail. John 19:23 records that soldiers divided Jesus' outer garments into 4 parts, but his tunic was woven in one seamless piece. So, rather than tear it, they gambled for it. If you were fabricating details to fulfill prophecy, why invent the seamless tunic? Psalm 22 only says they cast lots. John adds a practical, unmiraculous reason: soldiers not wanting to ruin an expensive garment. That is what an eyewitness remembers, not what a storyteller constructs. Explanation 3. Cannot stand alone. Now place the 2 texts side by side. This is what most people never do. Psalm 22. 1. My God, why have you forsaken me? Matthew 27. 46. Jesus speaks these exact words from the cross. Psalm 22:7. All who see me mock, they hurl insults, shaking their heads. Matthew 27:39. Those who passed by hurled insults, shaking their heads. Psalm 22:8. He trusts in the Lord, let him deliver him. Matthew 27:43. The priests shout, he trusts in God, let God rescue him now. Not paraphrase, near verbatim, from a text written 1,000 years before the scene. Psalm 22:15. My tongue sticks to the roof of my mouth. John 19:28. Jesus says, I am thirsty. Modern forensic medicine confirms this is one of crucifixion's most consistent symptoms. Blood loss and labored breathing cause the tongue to dry and adhere to the palate. A 10th century BC poem names the precise symptom of a death method that hadn't been invented. Psalm 22:16. They pierce my hands and my feet. John 20:27. The risen Jesus tells Thomas, see my hands. Psalm 22:17. People stare and gloat over me. Luke 23:35. The people stood watching. Psalm 22:18. They divide my clothes and cast lots for my garment. John 19:24. It happened exactly this way. John, as an eyewitness, recognized it. 7 specific correspondences, not poetry about vague suffering, specific actions, specific words, specific physiology, from a poem written 1,000 years before. In 1986, the Journal of the American Medical Association published a forensic study on crucifixion, not theology, pure physiology. Their findings: when suspended with arms outstretched, the diaphragm locks. The victim can't exhale without pushing up on the nail through their feet. Muscles fail over hours. Bones protrude. Dehydration becomes unbearable. Psalm 22, verses 14 to 15. All my bones are out of joint, medically accurate. My heart has turned to wax, consistent with cardiac stress and pericardial fluid buildup. My tongue sticks to the roof of my mouth. Textbook dehydration in crucifixion victims. This is not a poet reaching for metaphor. This is a clinical description of a mechanism, written before the mechanism existed. 3 explanations, none sufficient. In the 1950s, mathematician Peter Stoner calculated the probability of just 8 Old Testament prophecies being fulfilled by chance, 1 in 10 to the 17th power, 1 in 100 quadrillion. His illustration: cover the entire state of Texas with silver dollars 2 feet deep. Mark 1. Blindfold someone and send them walking. They reach down and pick up the marked coin on the first try. That is 8 prophecies. Psalm 22 alone contains more than 8. Numbers aren't proof. Probability isn't certainty. Miracles don't submit to equations. But here is what we do know. The poem exists. The Dead Sea Scrolls are real. The Septuagint is real. Josephus, a Jewish historian who rejected Jesus as Messiah, confirms the crucifixion under Pontius Pilate. And a poem written 1,000 years earlier describes the death with a precision that stops even committed skeptics. When Jesus spoke the first line of Psalm 22 from the cross, in Jewish tradition, quoting the opening of a psalm meant invoking the whole psalm, every word, every image, the full arc. And Psalm 22 does not end in darkness. It ends here. They will proclaim his righteousness to a people yet unborn, that he has done it. That he has done it. Make of that what you will.